Right, let's start talking about ApexAir, your business. When did you start ApexAir? When did the journey for Apex start for you?
2006.
Yep.
That's when I started.
Yep. And what did you do prior to setting up ApexAir? What was your career prior to that?
I did my degree overseas, and then I went for a PG in Australia, in Sydney, and I did a small job with a consulting firm there. Came here to do some of their work in Auckland, and which I finished, and I decided to stay back here. I worked with 3 different companies, hands-on servicing, commissioning, and for 6 years, and then I started the journey. Bought a second-hand Toyota HiAce, whole lot of tools, and went on a journey. Picked up an apprentice and a boss and boss and boss.
Yeah.
An apprentice.
It tends to be the way.
Yeah.
With that, so you started off actually. So you were on the tools. You were qualified tradie of was it HVAC or refrigeration?
I was never a qualified tradie.
Oh, yeah.
I was an mechanical engineer,
Right.
Graduate mechanical engineer, and I did a very horrible design, and that's why I wanted to know the missing link between the real world and design world.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's what triggered me going on, putting an apron and becoming an trade assistant and picking up tools.
So that thing you said about doing a horrible design, like, is that a bit of a sliding doors moment? Like, was that a moment in your life where it was like you remember it and you go, that kind of changed the course of what you were doing?
Yes, it did.
Yeah.
Yes, it did. Certainly. I did huge mistakes on the design, and it was not acceptable at any level. So,
Yeah. But you move on and you learn from those, right?
Of course.
Yeah. So with Apex then, what was your motivation to set up your own company? Had you had a business yourself previously, or was Apex like your first attempt at a business?
In New Zealand, Apex was. During my graduation and prior to graduation, I did small businesses as a side hustle, and I was very good at it. So I come from a background where my father started his business at 45, that's something inspired me, and I just grabbed every opportunity came along my way.
That's interesting. Like starting a business at 45, that's some people would find that quite daunting because he may have been used to, working for other people or so yeah, it's never too late to start a business because 45 is like it's I guess, relatively speaking, it's kind of old to start a business, but it goes to show you can do that at any age.
Correct. Yes,
Yeah.
I was very impressed. I'm still impressed.
Yeah, it's one of those things where your dad's almost like he's like your hero, and to see him doing something like that at that age is pretty motivating, right?
It has been the key turning point or the key factor of my course of actions.
What do you enjoy about your own business? What was some of the motivating factors for you to actually start your own business?
I think one of the reasons was I wanted to create a workplace for myself. I still have the similar objective in my head that I want to go to a place where I enjoy working. I enjoy making decisions. I enjoy adding value, and that was the purpose. Even today, it's still the same purpose. However, I learned that I can't do that, or I cannot enjoy all this unless people around me are in the same boat and same position.
Good point. Yeah.
So that's the philosophy from day one, and it's just I learned, or I went in the depth of, and I found the clarity only in recent years.
that's a good point, about like creating your own environment.
Sure.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the most sort of underrated aspects of having your own business, is having the ability to, you almost, well, you do. It's like having a nest, I guess, like a bird's nest, and you make that nest how you want it to be, as comfortable as you can, and for your team as well. Because we all know that staff are hugely important to the success of any business. You must sort of agree with that as well. It's the people are the number one thing.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, this concept is relevant ever since. It's just we are recognizing now, but it has always been the key ingredient of any setup. Be it's a business, be it's a team, sports, whatever it is. It's if you have right type of people, right attitude, right skill set, and the culture. People who fits in the culture and create the culture and takes it to next level every day. Without that, it's impossible to run a business in today's world, especially post-COVID.
Yeah, I've enjoyed seeing your business grow from, I think I met you back in 2007 or 2008, and you were kind of just starting out then, or you were a smaller organisation, but to see you, grow your business, but also yourself growing your standing within your industry, I found that really fascinating. You were on the what was the position that you held on, like the national?
I was president of IRHACE. So IRHACE is an institute of HVAC engineers, New Zealand, and I was the president for 2 years, 21 and 22.
And do you how do you think that being in charge, like having that role for the 2 years, how do you think that has that been of a benefit to your business, or to you as a person?
Yeah, the intention was to appreciate what I have achieved in the industry and take an opportunity to give back, and I decided to give my time. I underestimated the task big time, so my business did not get my attention during that period. However, I got very involved in my role at IRHACE, and I managed to do some value addition in the institute. It taught me a lot personally, how to develop tolerances, dealing with government bureaucrats, and dealing with volunteers, dealing with fellow engineers. It was quite not me. So my personality changed because of that, and I think that was one of the biggest plus of that role.
So that was quite a big learning curve for you, going into an environment like that, where you found was there a lot of sort of bureaucracy, and you went in there thinking one thing and possibly coming out thinking another?
Correct. I mean, I thought it would be a very easy thing to do. You'll turn up, because it's not a paid role, so you are not responsible and accountable. But I realized that I was very passionate about what I did, and hence I never went, and the business never gave me the amount of stress I went through in that role. However, I learned a lot. I grew a lot as an individual. I met a lot of amazing people, passionate people who has been putting their heart and soul into this organization. I developed a whole lot of new level of respect for volunteers and for good old-fashioned Kiwi engineers.
I'd imagine with those with a volunteer organisation, that even though you don't get paid, you're kind of adding to the momentum, or the how the thing operates moving into the future. And I guess you probably try and leave that organisation in a better place than you found it. So would that be a fair comment?
Yes, I mean, the organizations after COVID, these sort of organizations are disappearing, and so it was definitely a huge challenge on board. In general, you see internationally and nationally, the organizations are merging just to stay afloat.
Yep.
And me facing that in the key times, actually, it was quite frightening. However, rising up to the challenge with help of other volunteers and all was it's a great experience. I would say.
Yeah, interesting. If we can get back to ApexAir, that your company, you can talk us through, like, give us a bit of an oversight of the industry, like the HVAC industry, refrigeration, but then also the services that you guys provide as a company as well.
It's really interesting. I mean, HVAC industry is responsible for up to 70% of total energy users of country's energy.
Really?
Not many people are aware of it. So it's a quite important segment of industry, especially in today's time when we're talking about global warming and making an impact and climate policies, etc. So this is the industry which is not so recognized. Everybody in New Zealand, the students or kids, they know builder, sparky, plumber. Nobody talks about HVAC.
Really?
Even if it's such a significant industry.
Yeah.
In terms of turnover as well, it is a big chunk of the industry. Unfortunately, the awareness is, there isn't enough awareness out there. And I think that's where the future generation needs to go, because why would you want to produce sparkies when there is oversupply of sparkies?
Exactly.
And generally the sparkies end up becoming in air conditioning, coming in air conditioning industry. So does plumbers, and so does chippies, all of that. So we rather produce quality HVAC engineers, and that is not happening for a number of years, and I don't see it's changing drastically.
So you think that that's one of the challenges then for your industry and for your company, is the shortage, or the fact that people aren't coming into the industry, like they're not studying, not being apprentices, etc.?
Yeah, massive challenge. I mean, our industry has probably 30 to 40% minimum in every company is either working visa or migrant. A lot of them are from Fiji, because Fiji works on similar standards, AS and ZS. They used to be trained under TAFE, which is Australian organization. We rather have our own than depend on international engineers, because it still takes a lot of effort and time to bring them to the standard.
So when you say so people are leaving the industry, or they're not coming in the numbers that you need?
Yeah, they're not coming in. So there are not many apprentices signing up at tech. It's just because there's less awareness out there.
Yeah. So do you think you have to do something? I don't know. Is there any sort of support from the government, or to be able to start to promote the HVAC as a career option for people, getting into high schools and things like that, or career days?
Yeah, the career days would be ideal, and IRHACE is doing that, activity for quite some time. But again, it's not. It doesn't have that much of resources to be present in each school career day. Definitely, some sort of intervention required from MB or something, recognizing the shortfall, and basically creating a project over 5 years to basically spread the awareness of the requirement.
Would you so would you guys start to lobby the government? Would you start to sort of raise it on their, on their radar and say, look, we've got an issue here, and like that 70% number, like it's an astounding figure.
Yep.
And I think if they had some awareness of that figure, that would be the key selling point. It's like, hey, 70% of would you say the energy use in a country is because of either making things warmer or cooler.
Yep.
And if the government knew that, they'd probably get a few more people onto it, maybe just to make sure that people are comfortable, because essentially that's what it's about. Like HVAC is about making people comfortable, but then you've got like I guess you've got refrigeration, which is an extension of that as well for like food and things. But HVAC is essentially, I guess, would you say it's modifying or enhancing an environment to make it comfortable for humans? That's my way to put it. Yeah.
It is right, actually, Brady. I mean, we work in everything which is indoor environment. We need air quality. Never a better timing than COVID times when air quality matters. We need a good amount of fresh air to keep all the nasties away and keep everybody healthy. Imagine you have a staff working in a corner, a small room somewhere with no fresh air. That person, there are studies out there, the staff sickness and productivity is less than half, and the sickness and number of sick days are 3 times or 4 times. And more importantly, why would you want to have a staff who does not feel happy?
Yeah.
Oxygen is directly related to your wellness.
Exactly. Yeah. How awake you feel.
Correct.
Yeah.
So yes, HVAC, and today's time, with the heat waves and whole lot of stuff happening, the temperatures, humidity, right? Humidity. We were asthma. Why would you want to sponsor $70,000 per person for the asthma treatment when you can avoid that by providing good building, whether where people are working, studying, or living. There are initiatives in place. The government, the building codes are doing a good job, and I am very pleased to see what's happening in past 5 to 10 years with the air changes, etc. It's still not there yet to deal with COVID and viral or airborne bacteria, but definitely we are in a better space. However, we are New Zealand, so we have got a high humidity, and that is something we have been ignoring at various level. 3 months out of year we are like 70-80% plus. Our lungs are designed to operate at 50%.
Really?
So a whole lot of asthma going on because we are not managing humidity well.
I didn't do this on purpose, but I'm actually going to turn the aircon on. It's all part of the.
It's a good idea.
Better turn it on, and I'll say that you guys maintain our filters for us and stuff. But yeah, that's all part of it. So I've just turned the aircon on. Better make sure get the right temperature. Because I hate humidity. Like it really bugs me. I much prefer air conditioning and stuff. But man, it's I just find it. You're always like sweating and it's a bit gross. But that's a real concern. Like the lack of people coming into the industry. And I think is it just this generation that's coming through? They're more into taking selfies and generalizing, but they're more into themselves than how they could actually contribute to society by becoming a tradie, by becoming an HVAC technician, or getting involved with air conditioning. Do you think it's generational?
I tell you what, I would like to correct you there. The youngsters coming on board, they are very good quality individuals. Most of them have a very right approach and attitude. There will always be few who will have a texting going, or they're not interested. But they disappear very quick, because HVAC is a combination of plumbing, electrical, mechanical, controls, whole lot of skill sets. So it's definitely I would say that it's not as simple and easy as other trades, but it's very rewarding financially, and people who wants to keep sharp. So as long as we can spread awareness and bring those youngsters, and bring their attention to this trade, we will have a good future. It just needs, as you rightly said, career days. We need to be present everywhere.
Speaking of that, I've got a mate he owns a refrigeration business, and when he was getting his qualifications, he got his the Friggy qualification, whatever you call it. But then he's a fully qualified electrician, which is quite full on to have two trades going, and he worked bloody hard for it. But what type of skill set do people need to get into your industry?
I would say if somebody enjoys using tools, somebody enjoys finding solutions. As I rightly said, that this is a very, very highly paid profession. It's just people don't know about it. A sparky, a builder, a plumber, compared to HVAC. HVAC guys have a good pay rates.
That's good.
Good quality of life. Not so much about the hours if they are in refrigeration, but it is up to them if they want to do the call-outs. It's expected in the beginning of the career, but you can always go and work for a company who doesn't have a call-out requirement.
Yeah, true. And so, say if someone, and I'm looking at this from my 15, nearly 16-year-old daughter's point of view, where she's at that age where she's like, I don't know what to do, what shall I do with my life? And I think we've talked to her about getting into trades actually, and I think we might have mentioned it to you once previously at a function, and you said, send her into the shop for a couple of days, and she can have a look and see what we do. And I thought that was a really cool, a really generous offer, just to to give someone an idea about what they could be getting into. Is that something that you sort of maybe open up for other kids or other people wanting to get into the industry?
Absolutely. We are a member of CCCA, which is Climate Control Companies Association, New Zealand, and every air conditioning company I know of, which is a member of that organization, we all are open to welcome all the youngsters to come on board. If somebody's saying no, just come to us. Apex is very open. We'll be happy to put them in the office, behind the computer, looking at the AutoCAD drawings, putting them in the field with technicians, going somewhere, cleaning filters, or just or sending them on a construction site, for a few days to get a feel. How is it, project managing or site supervising the installation process. I think every air conditioning company would love to do that. We are already doing that. But Apex, as an Apex, we are very, very open-minded. Bring them on.
You never know. You never know who or what you might get out of it. That's cool, man. I might have to follow that up with my daughter a bit more. If she's at a loose end, she might, because she was talking about maybe becoming an electrician as well. But I'm thinking, hey, there's another opportunity here, and I like what you said before about how the HVAC, there's a whole lot of different aspects to what you do. You're not just dealing with wires or pipes. You're dealing with all of those plus more. It's a very sort of, seems like quite a diverse industry.
Yeah, it's not repetitive. So that's what I personally see different compared to other trades. Is we got massive number of different systems. So there's never repetitive task. You will go and service technician, you will go to the building, and every building will have different brand, different type of equipments, different different issues. If you are installing, then there are many different aspect of installation. You're not just doing 300 light bulbs, you know what I mean?
You're running kilometers of cable.
Correct.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's not boring at all. It's more fun, I would say.
So from a point of view, like I've just turned on, the air conditioning in here. Can you give us a rundown about the process of air conditioning, like from the unit outside to it coming out of the vents up there? Like what actually happens to the air along the way?
So basically, when it's cooling inside, it's heating outside, and vice versa. So it's like your car; it's got a radiator. In your car, if you're putting on cooling, the radiator is on heating, because the physics and the law says that the total energy remains same. So when you have started the cooling cycle, the outside equipment has a compressor. It does the work, and it creates it pumps the refrigerant at higher pressure into condenser, which is a coil. So it basically, in simple language, it heats outside and it sends the cold liquid, high pressure liquid inside, which has got an expansion device which sprays, and it creates that cooling effect in the coil, and the fan just does the fan work. So it basically, that cold is created on the coil. It's been pushed, that air transfer,
So
heat transfer is happening.
So the air passes over that coil.
Correct.
Right.
So that's how we feel cooler here. The moment it's cooling there in the coil, it is sweating there as well in the high humidity scenarios, and the sweating takes away the moisture from the air.
Yeah, that's
And
right.
that's how we remove the moisture. Air conditioning does way better job removing the moisture than those domestic little D-humps we use. Just in the put you in a perspective, if D-humps doing probably 5 liter per hour, air conditioning is going to do 10 times, because it's got a it's got a bigger engine and off-worlds.
So D-hum must be an industry term for dehumidifier. D-hum, got it. D-hum, cool. Yeah, it's a fascinating process, and like we were saying before, it's it certainly helps create the environment that makes you feel comfortable. Like, I guess if you go up to the islands, if you in certain parts of Australia, India and Asia and like in China and that sort of thing, the humidity is kind of oppressive. Like the air up there is just so damp. It must be those countries who would use more energy than what New Zealand would use.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
The countries which has got a high humidity, high temperature, without air conditioning, they would struggle.
Yeah.
They actually have district cooling plants. That means they were like how we have the electricity station, substation. So they were like a big, massive cooling plants there.
Wow.
And they run the probably almost a meter wide chill water pipes, steel pipes with insulation throughout in the streets, and then each place gets their own quota. And their sizes are like probably we're talking about some of the plant are the sizes is massive. It's probably 1,000 times bigger than a building you can think of.
Wow. Because I know probably the most sort of famous one that I'd think of would be in New York City, on Manhattan Island there, where they've got they show those shots in the movies of the winter time and the steam coming out of the drains, and that's all part of that's a heating system that runs around a fair bit of that like lower Manhattan and stuff. I don't know if it's in the newer parts, but it's certainly in like the old or established parts. It's like a big sort of central heating plant for the entire like half of Manhattan Island pretty much.
Okay. I'm not sure about that. when I went and inquired, I was told that it's the subway running,
Oh, yeah.
and that's where they're releasing the the heat and extraction.
Yeah.
And yeah.
From the underground and stuff.
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd say that's definitely part of it as well. But I know that there is a I'll look it up later on. But there is a like a heating plant for part of that part of Manhattan Island. So yeah, crazy. The lengths we go to try and modify the natural environment to make ourselves feel like comfortable in that.
Yes.
I guess in New Zealand going back to that figure that you said before about 70%. So you say 70% of our energy usage in New Zealand goes to powering HVAC and refrigeration.
So there are many analyses, the data, and the data suggests that 60 to 70% consumption in the building is dedicated, or it's due to HVAC and R segment. R is refrigeration.
Yeah.
So combining with refrigeration, the consumption of average commercial building is that much.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, and if you spread that across, say, an entire country or a large city like Auckland, that's a heck of a lot of energy that goes into just keeping the air at the right temperature.
Even looking at your domestic use at your home, Brady, look at your consumption and see how much it is for the hot water.
Yeah.
That should answer your question.
Exactly.
Hot water and cooling is your biggest consumer.
Because I don't think we actually answered it before we started talking about something else. But what are the services that ApexAir provides from basic, like you guys do filter cleans, or do you install heat pumps, or is it mainly bigger sort of plant that you get involved with?
Well, we call ourselves mechanical contractors. So we do tenders, we do design for HVAC, commercial buildings for building code compliance, consent, design and build. We do tenders, we do estimation, so it's for the project work, which is construction industry for the commercial buildings, apartments, a whole lot of stuff. And we have a team who does servicing of that plants going forward post-construction. And we issue the building warrant of fitness requirement, the Form 12A, etc.
Yeah, cool. And so how much of the business now is about that design and install, and how much of it is the servicing side?
I think it's about 40-60. So 40 being service works and 60 being construction related.
I guess now that we're in this building boom, I guess the installation side will be a lot busier. Do you see how do you see the building sort of boom going? Do you think it's going to start to tail off, or do you think it's going to keep going?
Well, we have in Auckland there has been massive boom, construction boom due to apartments and commercial developments. Now that the borders are opening, I think that the bit of dampener which mortgage rate has put in, and the talk of recession, inflation has created definitely a bit of nervousness in the new developments. However, once the border opens, I think New Zealand in general has a lot of catching up to do. So I'm sure that you'll agree to that. It's just Kiwi businesses and developers, they're very conservative. I don't think we are running very thin on equities. So I think this will continue. I don't think there is a stoppage for next 5 years, 10 years.
So do you guys have work that's planned out that far?
We normally have 2 years worth of work, forward work, and the only stopping for us is resources, as every other business. We're waiting on some quality people to turn up.
Yeah, that's the big thing at the moment. Everyone's saying how hard it is to get people, good people. There's people around, but are they necessarily what you need? And it's you're right. I think as the borders reopen, then hopefully some of those people that would have come here over the last 2 years, they'll start to come in and, hopefully even out the labour market a wee bit, because it has definitely swung, one direction, and it's, the cost is huge, and you guys must be finding that with your, with your labour rates and that sort of thing.
The labour rate has gone up big time. I mean, I'm sure as an employer you'll know that. That's just how do I put it? It's not proportionate at all to anything. But then today's world, nothing is proportionate. I see some sort of relief once the migrant workers are allowed. Once we open for the rest of the world. That is the only hope we have at the moment in sight. Australia is doing tough, so we're losing a lot of brain drain there that way as well, and it's not helping.
Yeah, it's compounding the situation, isn't it? The big thing over the last couple of years, obviously, has been COVID, and I guess with dealing with a company that deals with air, and what we learned about how COVID was an airborne, virus or whatever, and it would, it could transmit through air conditioning and all that sort of thing. Did you guys have to adapt your service or do anything different during COVID to be able to cope with, people's concerns? Because people would have been saying, block this vent off or turn this off. Or, how was COVID for you guys from that perspective?
I mean, being part of IRHACE and Apex, there was a very good question, COVID and connection with air conditioning. We were asked by many clients, and we knew that there is a connection, and we saw the rise of ultraviolet, UVC lights. It became quite popular subject. However, the way New Zealand commercial buildings are, where landlord does not pay for your plants or an upgrades, generally, unless you are renewing your lease. A lot of cost was on the tenants.
Oh yes, like OpEx, right?
Correct. So tenants ended up opting for those portable plants with UVC emitters and all.
What's UVC? Ultraviolet.
Ultraviolet. It's a bandwidth wavelength of so you how you've got UV rays. It's a UV rays, but it's A, B, and C. This wavelength will kill all the aerosols.
So where does that piece of equipment go in the system?
It comes in all shapes and sizes. So you get a light which you can hold with your hand, but you got to keep it away from your skin, and it's got a cover, so you can actually use it like a broom on your desk, and it kills all that. Or you can just use spray and wipe. But it also can be installed at a higher level in the lights, and basically the air comes in contact with it, or you can connect with put a fan behind and create a circulation. You can put it in air conditioning units, even existing air conditioning units. There are kits there. So the idea is that it kills all the aerosols, mold, bacteria. It's quite proven model. It's a 100-year-old technology. It used in a water treatment, a very reliable model. And now it's becoming very available at at a air level, indoor air level, and definitely helpful in dealing with viruses and bacteria.
Well, that's interesting, and I guess if it's becoming more available, then the price of that technology will hopefully be coming down. If it's been around for 100 years in water, it's probably fairly cost effective already. But so have you guys been finding that you've been installing a lot more of those?
Well, I expected that we will be installing a lot more, but the cost has been a prohibitive factor, and especially who pays. That that the good old problem where tenant pays for the electricity. Hence, nobody wants or worried about energy efficiency till the neighbors and neighbors been adapted in our country. I mean, Australia have been very good with neighbors. It's a rating system where the buildings are measured that how much electricity it uses per square meter. So when you have a higher neighbors rating, that means the building can be sold at a higher value. That is available in New Zealand. It's still a voluntary scheme, but once we have that, everybody before purchasing the building, everybody wants to see that. That will drive the landlords, and the building owners, to go towards, opt towards the energy efficient solutions.
And that's something we're getting into more and more as well, is that sustainability thing. It's that term's been around for a number of years now, but I think COVID is and I guess what's happening with the economy at the moment, it's kind of making us have a look at the operating expenses for these buildings and thinking, okay, how can we make things run a little bit cheaper? Not necessarily worse, but you still want a good outcome, but what can we do to save on consumption? And I keep thinking that that figure you mentioned before about 60 to 70% of energy, that's a staggering one. And so what's the next great thing in your industry from a technological point of view? Is there anything changing, or is it always going to be heating and cooling and removing moisture from air?
Can I, before I answer that, can I also bring another fact to light? Is there are many surveys done, and the data suggests that a building, in the life cycle of the building, commercial building we're talking about, the cost of the whole cost of that during life cycle of the building, maintenance, operation, and construction, the construction cost stands at, any guess what percentage you reckon?
Well, I look at it based on, say, if a building's intended to last for 50 years, and say the construction phase is maybe only really, I don't know, 2% or 3% of that time. So would it be that of the value of the building, maybe, or?
Yeah, I mean, I'm very impressed. So the construction cost of that building during the whole life cycle of the building, total cost, is 3%.
3%.
And
shit, I nearly got it right.
I mean, that's why you win all those quizzes.
We'll talk about that later. Yeah. Nice.
I help you sometimes.
Didn't quite win that last one, but shit, that's interesting. So 3%.
So all of this, what I'm trying to suggest here is that we worry about the construction cost so much. The developers and the building owners we work with, who understands this, they spend a lot more money in the construction phase to get things right, because they understand that if the cost from 3% goes to 3.5%,
it's massive.
It's still massive in the greater scheme of the picture, where they're going to have the building for 30 to 50 years with their generations. These are the building owners whose parents were building owners. And these are the people who appreciates the importance of good construction practices. The building owners who are building and selling, they are the one who try not to opt for better technology and products which cost them slightly higher,
because they're not going to get a return on it right when they sell.
Correct. So, and that's where the government, building code comes into play, and the neighbors, and importance of this pushing people to do a right thing. I know that nobody likes regulation and more regulation, but when we are talking about the climate, and if we are really serious, we should adapt all those high level of conducts to do the right thing.
Yeah. So I guess the technology plays a part in that, right? So what's the is there any things that are happening in your industry, sort of now or in a couple of years that you think is going to be a game changer of sorts?
I think the whole evolution process have accelerated, and thanks to internet and we are inventing a lot more, and very quick. We are adapting very quick, and overall development of technology, especially I would like to mention Internet of Things, IoT.
Yep.
IoT is going to be the future of everything with buildings and our day-to-day life. Europe has been very forefront for adapting this technology. New Zealand is not, but we are not. We can't stay away too far or too long, accepting that. We have some quality, property managers, FM companies, and building owners who knows that how important it is. So IoT is going to be the role changer, and the earlier we do that, the better it is. At ApexAir, we have adapted IoT on our side, software side, but we have got not a single building owner or volunteer to actually use it on.
That can be a bit frustrating and disappointing, right? Because you guys come up with have all these solutions and things, but then everyone's like, oh, no, we're not ready for that. And it's people's ability to adapt to change can be a bit slow at times, and that's frustrating. But the IoT, that's an interesting thing where I guess from a home point of view, we've got a certain brand of appliance throughout the house, and the washing machine talks to the dryer, talks to the fridge, talks to the TV, so that when your washing's finished, you get a message on your TV, and I'm going, oh, bloody things like it's cool. It's cool, and you can look in your fridge from your phone and all that sort of thing, and it's like, I think it's awesome, but we're only at the very start of that, really, and it's that whole IoT is give it a few years, and we'll be talking about this stuff we're saying now would be like old-fashioned type thing. I think it's only really kicking off.
I read somewhere where the amount of photographs taken in the whole century, we are taking that many photographs in 2 minutes or something.
Oh hell! Really?
And that is that sort of snowball or inertia we're talking about. So whether you want it or not, technology is going to hit us in your and my lifetime.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and we'll be probably left behind a bit, like how we leave our parents behind. They couldn't operate a VCR properly or something like that back in the old days. It's cool. I always ask people about technology and what's sort of coming up in the industry, because I'm a firm believer that within our company and our industry, there's some quite neat things happening from an FM or building management point of view. So I just like to get people's perspective on what they know or think or have seen that's coming up, that's going to potentially make all our lives a lot more simple or more comfortable or whatever. Yeah, so it's always an interesting answer from people. Yeah.
That's what you like to think. It will make it simple.
Well, yeah, makes it simple for us, and then someone's got to fix it when it's.
I think. Look, I 100% agree with you. That it's not upon us anymore. Right now, with AI and all that is happening, we are. I think we have no choice but to go along.
Yeah, get on the train. That's exactly what I was going to ask you about. Is there any sort of AI stuff happening in the HVAC and refrigeration industry?
I guess the BMS, good old-fashioned building management system, combined with IoT and all. I think that's already there in the background. With all the new softwares and logics are designed. And we will not know now, but I think I like to believe that it's already in place with current controllers and a whole lot of stuff. So, watch the space, I would say.
Yeah, cool. I guess it'd be good to get away from industry talk and HVAC and all that sort of thing for a bit. Now, I know about yourself. There's 3 things that I like about yourself. Like you're a family man, which is great. You love your rugby, but you also love your motorcycles. You're a motorcycle guy. Yeah. Tell us about the motorcycles to start with, then we'll go back through the other 2.
I like motorcycles because I mean, when I was a kid in India, the motorcycles are like your legs. 2-wheelers is quite a common mode of transport, and it makes me feel free when I'm on the road because I'm not wearing seatbelt and I'm not in climate control car.
True. Yeah.
More importantly, I think I appreciated that more in last few years because as a business owner you have learned to plan and see what's coming, and that is quite an addiction. It becomes a habit of worrying, and your brain is always occupied. When you're driving motorbike on the road, especially in Auckland, in New Zealand, generally is you don't have time to think anything else, otherwise you'll die. So I read a book called Motorbikes and Zen, Motorcycle and Zen, and I agree with it 100% that when you ride motorbike, it's like meditation. You're focusing on negotiating your turns and all that. So that 15-minute ride from work to office, or a day ride with like-minded people, ending up with a chill beer somewhere.
Awesome.
It's priceless, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So because I've never really been a motorbike. I've ridden a few motorbikes, but so you think you're concentrating a heck of a lot more than you would be in a car?
Of course. Yes. Car, I leave my home and I reach to the destination and I have no idea how I reach there. In motorcycles, I can tell you that how many trees are on the road.
Yeah, good point. How many cars you passed and how many turns you took. That's good to hear that, because I love motorbikes. I think they're awesome, but haven't been allowed to get one yet. But maybe that might change in the future. But what sort of bike have you got?
I've got my first one was a Royal Enfield. It's still there, but I think I gifted it to a friend of mine after I had too many. And
too many motorbikes.
Too many drinks.
Too many.
And unfortunately, we both remember that conversation, so it's gone. It's Royal Enfield 500.
Yeah.
It only happened a couple of months back. So now I only have one, which is Harley.
Nice.
Softail.
Yeah, cool. Yeah. Awesome. Love the Harley. Is that like the ultimate bike, or have you got another couple of bikes that you'd like to get in the future?
Of course not. I like to get as many as I can. It's just I'm just waiting for my wife's birthday so I can gift her.
Look, honey, look what I bought you. I bought you a new motorbike. Yeah. Now, you love your rugby as well.
Yes, I do.
Oh, God, it's hard going at the moment being an All Blacks fan.
I'm not going to talk to you anything about rugby today.
Okay. Let's agree on that, because I've kind of, I hate to say it because I love the All Blacks so much, but I just don't think they don't have the right coach. I don't think the captain's right, and they've got too many players out of position, and I just think I'm going to just have a break from the All Blacks until the right coach and captain come along.
One thing I can tell you, the silver lining is that there was never a better time for us to wake up. We are about a year away. Probably this is a good thing.
Yeah, true. You'd rather have it happening now than this time next year.
Correct.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and so family's a big part of your life as well. You've got a couple of kids. Are they still kids, as we call kids these days? Yeah.
Yes, I've got 16 year and 13 year.
Yeah.
The 16 year just started driving, so and she's a good driver, so I'm very happy with that.
Nice.
It's a small family. It's quite simple life, but I get tortured a lot.
Yeah. And that's one of the things, right? That's one of the motivations too about why you have your own business and why you do what you do. It's it's about about your family at the end of the day, and making sure that they're looked after. Yeah, that's cool. Just one thing before we end this. I've asked a couple of people this now, and I've always found it to be quite a some people have quite a different reaction to this question, but the question is, what are you most proud of with what you've done with your company?
Oh, good question. I would say that making difference in people's life, and that is something I would say that the highlight of my journey. I'm sort of addicted to it now. So when you pick up people from all walks of life and wherever they are in the whatever stages they are in, and then you figure out, or you try to figure out their personalities, their strengths, their weaknesses, and then you communicate that in a right manner to basically uplift them and to help them to be better at as a becoming person or a professional. It's very it's very satisfying, and it makes me feel happy. And in my downtime, I look back and I see those faces, and that actually helps me feel sense of achievement, and I think that's what drives me now.
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic answer, and a lot of that resonates with me as well, because I think there's a misconception out there that everyone that owns a business is just absolutely creaming it, and they don't treat their employees very well, and life is easy. And it's like, in a lot of cases, it's the total opposite. And and what you said there about, I guess you're contributing to someone's life in quite a big way, because everyone works a lot these days, and I think if they're in an environment where that you've provided, like we said at the start, you've built this environment up, and people come and contribute to that environment, and their contribution ends up actually bettering their own circumstances and own lives. Like, that's really rewarding and very fulfilling as well, I think. And that's what gives me better satisfaction out of what we do nowadays than any sort of monetary return. You got to make money, obviously, but I'd rather see people succeeding and growing their lives. That's just what I find too. So what you said there really resonates. Correct. Well, mate, thanks for coming on. Like, it's been good to get an insight into your company, ApexAir, your industry, and also a little bit about yourself. I know from my and Kylie's and Active's personal point of view, we enjoy working with you, and we've had quite a long-standing relationship now, and may that continue. But we've loved to see your business grow, and yourself doing well, and your team, and I guess more than anything, we really enjoy catching up with you at the rugby and stuff, and we appreciate your generosity there, and always enjoy catching up with you for a beer and to see how things are going. So appreciate your insight today. So thanks for coming in. It's been really good.
Can I ask you a question, Brady?
Here we go. Okay. You want to swap sides?
It's my turn now.
Sure. Yeah.
So why the podcast, and how is it going?
Yeah, cool. Good question. Why the podcast? I guess I've always had a fascination with them. Like, I've been listening to them for a couple of years now. I got quite into podcasts throughout COVID, listening to a few different ones just online or on YouTube. And I just like listening to people's conversations, because that's what they were. Like, I don't really like the interview style ones where it's just question, answer. I mean, we kind of do that here, but I think it's more that I lead on from questions and try and dig a little bit deeper. And it is really, it's a conversation. And I don't like people that say, you should keep it to 10 or 20 minutes. I'm like, well, stuff that. I mean, like I can cut bits out of it to make it 10 or 20 minutes, but listening to a conversation while you're driving or while you're at the gym or whatever is quite cathartic, I think. And then I got a chance last year to go on a podcast. There's an Australian building manager who's got a podcast in Australia, and we just did a one over Zoom. And it was then when I was like, okay, I've actually got to get off my ass and do my own one, because I've been wanting to do something for a while. And then it was a matter of, okay, how do you want to do it? What sort of format do you want? I wanted to do video and audio, because I think video is quite engaging. And yeah, I just wanted to, I guess, just start talking with people. Like, what was it going to be about? It was going to be about sort of our industry and all the different industries that we interact with. And there's yourselves as air conditioning and HVAC. We'll see in the next coming weeks. I've got quite a few up my sleeve already, and quite a few more to come. But it's just sitting down with all these people that I've met over the years, and just talking to them about their business really, and their industry, and them as people. Because I think we tend to have like a fairly one-dimensional view of our business or our person. So if people are interested and they actually want to sit down and listen, and to people like yourselves, they actually learn a little bit more about what makes you tick, why you do what you do, and I just think that can help anyone really, just have a better understanding, and hence the name, The Insight. Like, it's just probably asking questions that people might not actually have thought of, or digging in from a certain point of view. So I just thought, oh well, let's try it, let's do it, and it's going good so far. We've had some really good feedback. People that are sort of putting their hand up and actually wanting to come on now that they've seen a few online, and so I'll just keep doing it.
Good on you.
Who knows, eh? Like, who knows? It might go for a year. It might go for just indefinitely. But yeah, I actually just enjoy sitting down talking to people. Yeah, I'm more of a listener myself anyway. Hence my 5-minute answer to your question. But yeah, I enjoy listening to people and just learning off off their experience really. And like you said prior to the start of this, it's about sharing that, and I think that's a big thing, is just getting people's stories out into the little communities that we have, whether online or whatever. So yeah.
Good on you. Good on you. I think I see this evolving further, definitely, where I see Kylie sitting in the conversation, and probably from 2 people it could be 4 people.
Yeah.
Conversation easily, and the idea is definitely worth spreading. And good on you for thinking this through.
Cool, man.
And doing it.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, and it's almost like you've read our little plan, because we are going to get a couple more microphones and a couple more cameras, so that you can have 4 people.
Correct.
So that's in the plan for a bit later on in the year. But yeah, I think having 4 people involved, or 3, and a couple more cameras, that's always part of the plan. But I think it would provide for some really cool cool insights and that good conversation. The one that I'd really love to do is because Kylie and I we like going to degustations, so they're like a 7-course dinner or whatever, and I reckon that would be a great podcast if you sat down with another couple and you had just the conversation and the food coming along, and that sort of thing. Would be a real cool sort of concept for a podcast. So who knows what it might evolve into. We've got the gear. You can basically just talk about anything you want, change your backdrops, and change your titles and whatever. And yeah, I mean, this is basically a little studio setup as it is. So you can talk about anything.
Yeah, nice views too.
Yeah, no one ever gets to see the view. They only get to see me or you. Yeah, but no, that's cool, man. Appreciate your coming on, and yeah.
Thank you very much.
Awesome, mate.
Thank you for having me.
Cheers.
Thank you.